Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 148 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we bring the entire E-Crew together as we look back on the season to date. Starting things off in the weekly rundown, we reflect on what caught our attention so far and look back on the December showcase in Newington, Connecticut. Further along in the Fantasy Challenge, we recap the points collected over the past 2 weeks and set the table for the stretch run. Finally, this week's What to Watch For segment previews what's coming next week on the podcast as the entire E-Crew gets back together once again to make our mid-season picks for what 8 teams we're predicting to see advance to the 2023 EHL Frozen Finals. This week's episode is brought to you by Hockey Tech, the developers for the new EHL app, available now in both Apple and Google stores. And with that, let's bring in the entire E-Crew. I think this is the first time we've ever had a group this big on the podcast. Jeff, you can probably attest for that, right? Like,
this is absolutely a fact. But back to when we used to do those. Remember the first few episodes? We used to all do the interviews. That was probably when we broke the record. We'd have myself, you, and Britt, and then probably a player and 2 coaches. So, yeah, I think we're either breaking a record or we're tying here, Commish, for sure.
There are 7 of us on the podcast right now. You just heard Jeff. We have Tyler, Anthony, Jake, Haley, and Trevor on also. Like literally the entire crew. Because we have 2 winter break episodes coming your way. This is a recap of everything to date. And then next week, I think it's Jeff's least favorite episode of the season. But it's a fun one where we make our Frozen Finals picks. But we're now officially on winter break, guys. Are we all recovered from the showcase, by the way?
Yeah. Anthony, you got anything to say, Anthony?
Yeah, I guess. No, it was a fun showcase. A lot of hockey to watch. A lot of games that went beyond regulation, too.
Again, another showcase full of extra time.
Anthony, did you make the bus?
Yes, I did.
I tell you this every showcase. You have to admit, I do. Every showcase, I say, don't miss the bus.
So was the initial miss on Adam? They were already at Frank Pepe's.
Well, I don't know.
Pizza, and then it was
who's
like,
going to take blame for
Anthony's
this,
still
Anthony?
here.
Well, just for context for all the listeners back home. So normally I travel to and from the showcases with the New Jersey 87s because I'm 28. I still don't have my license. Numerous reasons for that, but that's not the main point. Adam Hooley, the coach of the 87s, told me to take my time because I did the showcase reports for Twitter. Shout out to Jake, Tyler, all the guys of the E-Crew to film those for me. So I shot that, and Jake, you were the one filming, so I did quite a few takes for that final one. And then when I went to the lobby, Neil was already telling me, don't miss the bus. The bus was gone. So then Adam had called Neil, said, oh, hey, we're going to loop back around. And now to tell you guys, when I got on the bus, I asked Adam, I said, did I take too long? And he looked at me, he said, no, that was my bad.
So there you go.
Because he told me, because I told him I was,
right? You told us.
He told me to take my time. He told me to film whatever you need to film. So I did. And then when I got on the bus, he said, no, that was on me. Don't worry about it.
One and only Adam Hooley.
Stand-up guy, Adam. Stand-up guy.
And now that we have that on the record, we'll jump into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
Last time we dropped the podcast was December 8th, so A lot has taken place since then, of course. Our third showcase, which was
games.
EHL only. I think as we jump into the weekly rundown, I want to go around the horn and everyone say just the one biggest takeaway so far from the first. You can't even call it the first half. From the first 60% of the season. And let's nobody can say the parody because that's the easy cop-out answer. You have to say something else, right? All right, so my takeaway is this. For about 2 months, we were trashing all over Terry Watt for how many games he's played, and he doesn't even lead the league anymore. The Seahawks do. The Seahawks are at 32 games going into the holiday break.
4 more than Terry.
Yes. So my takeaway with that is I'm so curious to see how that could benefit them only playing 14 in the second half. Could it benefit or hurt them only playing 14 and then, their rest versus rust, as Jeff loves to say, going into playoffs? So I'll lead off. Whoever wants to go next, fire away.
I will say that the East Division is the most unpredictable division in the Eastern Hockey League this year. That is my
I'd second that, Jake.
All right, I love you too, Tyler.
I didn't think the North was going to be as big of a juggernaut as it is. If you look at our EHL top points leaders board, 7 out of the 10 guys that lead the EHL in points are out of the North. We all knew the North was going to be as good as it is, but I don't think we knew it was going to take to this length where stop me if you heard me again. I think I said that a few times in my broadcast this year. The New Hampshire Avalanche are the best team in the EHL. That's happened a few times. But for the Wolves to replicate what they did last year with their great season, the Spartans have taken that next step. Lumberjacks have also taken that next step. 3 out of those 4 teams are already over 100 goals for the year, have some of the best differentials in the league. So we knew it was going to be good, but I don't think we knew it was going to be all 4 of those teams were going to be, arguably 4 of our best teams in the entire EHL.
I think for myself, everyone knows that I'm a big goalie guy, so I'm going to give the goalies some loves. We have a lot of great goalies in this league, and it's not just the number 1 guys either. I got to call 2 games at Rodman this week. Both Seacoast and the Railers played their quote-unquote backup goaltenders, Ben Skelton and Xavier LaPierre. Both of those guys played excellent in those games, and even going back to the showcase, Skelton picked up a shutout, got rewarded with another start. We know how good Stefan Kulhanek and Tristan Fadadad are, but the fact that their backups are pretty good too. A lot of teams have that this year. A lot of teams have been able to roll out a solid duo and alternate starts like that. And I think it's something that deserves to get recognition from the first 60% of the season. We have a lot of good goalies in this league.
Coach Bertoni doesn't even refer to LaPierre as his backup. He calls him 1B at this point. Yeah,
I wouldn't either.
He's got kind of what Rich had last year with Jackson and Miller. It was 1A, 1B. That's what Rich would always say last year.
Jake, do you want to comment on Matt Gover fast, or can we skip that?
It wouldn't be a podcast if he did not mention.
No, he is definitely he's definitely up there. Oh,
All
I
right.
see.
That's
I
it.
see
It's
I see a wild
Nashua.
Nashua in the background.
Yes, the dog is not going to have a takeaway from the beginning unless he barks in the next second.
Nashua is all
almost through. Anthony, Trevor, Haley, they can do a combo if they want to.
I'm gonna go off of what Jeff said about the North. And with how good all 4 teams have been this year so far, I feel like it's really hard to kind of try and pick a team that's gonna come out on top there. Like the Avalanche, obviously, right now we're in the top spot. But you never know. They could slow down. The Seacoast could pick it back up again. Seacoast has William Prey, Oliveri, and I forget his name now.
Maxwell.
Kenny Maxwell.
There it is, Maxwell.
2/3 of the Prey Max.
That line is just unbelievable, and they could easily be the top in the North this year. But I feel like that there's just so much competitiveness in that North League. We have no idea who's going to come out.
We just saw the Warriors too, Neil, right? They just took down the Avalanche 2-1. They beat the Lumberjacks. They had probably the toughest showcase schedule. I know we haven't really jumped into the showcase yet, but they probably had the toughest showcase schedule. And sorry, we love Ryan, right? We all hung out with Ryan for a while the other night, but the Warriors and Rough Riders are 2 statistically quote unquote worst teams in the league points wise. And credit to them. They took it to the Avs, beat them, took it to the Lumberjacks, beat them. And that just goes to show you the worst versus the best. Not always on paper what it looks like. You know?
They've beaten every team in that North Division this year.
They've done this, dude. They've done this
earlier this season. They beat Seacoast in overtime, and now they took down the other two at the showcase. So I don't know. Maybe Valley owns the North. You know, I wouldn't want to run into those guys if I'm any of those North teams.
But Neil, you remember this has happened the last like 2 or 3 years where we've had some struggling Warriors teams, but every win that they get is when they knock off a better opponent or some of the best of the league.
Well, and that was the next thing I wanted to get to, but let's wrap this up. Anthony, last one. You tell us your biggest takeaway first, and then let's get to Valley.
I guess it's sort of similar to what Tyler said, where this year, I feel like the whole adage of defense wins championships, or by extension, goaltending wins championships, we're seeing that play out into real life in the EHL this year. You look at the 87s, they don't score that much, but they still haven't given up 50 goals. They're the only team to not give up 50 or more goals coming into this holiday break. You have Kyle Spann and Jake Hugesson playing really well. Samuel Bowes for the Valley Junior Warriors. And we've seen some good goaltending from Jack Bosher, which is, sort of the norm. And we're just watching goalies sort of stealing games, as you guys brought up with Valley. And while he's not a goaltender, I also just want to give a quick shout out to Luke Ubetta, because he had probably my favorite quote for both of their wins. Walking to the locker room, he just looked up in amusement and said, "We scored more goals than the other team." and he said it as if there was like such like surprise in that they got those 2 upset wins.
That's a winning recipe they should replicate going forward. I think. I feel like they'd have a lot of success if they could duplicate that. A few more times.
It was like as if he was implying like, "Oh wait, we're allowed to do this. Yeah, let's keep doing it."
Anthony, I'm glad that you brought up Ubetta, because obviously a second takeaway for me. I'm going to take a second one, guys, because no one else will hear. Are all the puns this year? Jake, a lot of credit to you for that. But Anthony brings up Ubetta, and now we're going to go into the showcase, because I had one of the best puns with Ubetta. You got to admit it, because supposedly Jake had his microphone on the ledge, on the boards, and there was a hit thrown by Luke Ubetta, and I said, "You better replace that." I thought that was pretty good. I thought that was pretty good. I mean,
dad joke of the year, Neil. It was good.
I mean, Jake has owned me with those all season, but I hit him with that one pretty quickly. So
that was you better this and go for that. That's gonna be
destroyed. You broke down the famous EHL microphone. Now it's in shambles.
Yeah. So, like I said, you better replace that. But now, Jeff, you bring up Valley, who it's the biggest. I mean, we're jumping into the showcase now. That's the biggest takeaway, is that statistically speaking, the team that had the fewest points in the league beat the team that had the most points in the league on the last day. And I think this is an easy trivia question, because Jake already said this too. What division is Valley going to be in next season?
The North.
The North. With the recent expansion that we've added, they're going to be in the North next year, a division that they're 5-1 against. I guess they haven't got the memo that it's next year, not this year so far. But that division, Jake said it himself too. And we're not making our picks right now, but at different points in this season, the Rangers have been in first place. The Seahawks have been in first place. The Express have won 5 straight games. Nick Cota texted me last night and said, can we change the holiday break? Because he doesn't want the holiday break to come right now.
Hot at like the wrong time, right? You want the rest, but
we had a fun laugh with the Wizards record early on in the year, because it was like 5-5-5 at one point is what it felt like. Now they're 10, 10 and 5. I think that was Anthony chiming in for a second, but we lost Anthony.
I think so.
Sounded like
I think we lost. I think Anthony got stuck.
Explain the X-Fi. Can your connection do that?
My internet went out. Can you guys?
Yes, we
got internet do that.
We got you.
I thought that was Megatron chiming in.
But now
there he is.
The hat just went from my top left corner to my bottom right corner. Really just confused.
Yeah,
Anthony's
my internet just gave out, so I'm sorry about that.
He's back.
Nick Coda said he wanted to switch the holiday break.
Yeah, they've won 5 straight games, so
Yeah.
it's not coming at the best time for him, but plenty of momentum going into 2023.
Right
That is the hope.
as my internet gave out on me, I just tried to make a funny historical joke. He tries to pull an FDR where he switched the date of Thanksgiving, trying to help out the economy. Trying to switch when Christmas is, just so it can coincide with his winning streak. Once the Express loses a game, okay, now we can have Christmas.
That would be some pretty big news, Anthony, if the
Right.
EHL changed the date of Christmas.
If any
Holy
3-letter
shit.
league can do it, it's us.
Honestly?
Yes.
No, but Neil,
How much-
another interesting thing from the show, since we're breaking down standings and talking about storylines and stuff in the first half, is I'm kind of surprised at how many good teams we have that are still still buyers at the deadline for offense, right? I mean, Anthony brought up with the 87s. That's a team that's not putting pucks in with the usual vengeance that they have. They need some scoring help. The Rangers up to 75 goals for now in 27 games. I think Rich would agree they could use some help. I mean, the Express, Jack Boschert, we knew he was going to be good, but a lot of new faces there. They're starting to bring in some other guys too. Tyler, you've seen Kowalski inserted to the lineup the other day. Garnett started picking up. He's been there all year.
Bill Parker's back now.
Bill Parker, that's right. Yeah, Philip and
Trying to
Aiden.
incorporate him.
I think
the
Aiden's
lineup.
a great addition for Maryland too. Losing Scott
Aiden's
Kremen
helped
to soon
out
he can.
Maryland.
That's going to be
It's good
huge.
that both of them are back. It was
Yeah.
very nice to see them in Newington.
But still,
But-
a lot of teams that need offense here that have good goaltending and defense. But I think at the end of the day, you got to be able to put pucks in the net more regularly. If you're the likes of the Rangers, the 87s, teams like that, they're in playoff spots, but definitely are going to need some kind of help from either guys that are on the roster or guys that aren't even in their buildings yet.
And
Yeah,
here you go,
if can add
Anthony.
some guys that help spread the scoring around too. Like I just called a game against the Spartans and did some math and found out that the Preomax line accounts for 55% of that team's total goals.
Wow.
And they're an amazing line, and they ended up getting a goal in that game. So 51 of the 91 goals the Spartans have scored this season from that line. And you're not going to be able to add a player maybe like Drew Oliveri before the trade deadline, right? Or a William Prayer, Kenny Maxwell. Those guys just aren't available. But if you can add a few complementary pieces and try and help spread the offense around, that can maybe lift things up. So
help lengthen the lineup. I mean, Rangers did that. Give credit to them this showcase. They had a couple of games that I called that it was all depth guys. It wasn't the Bichettos and Morissets that they've been used to. It was guys. Cole Hines had an unbelievable goal. They got some defense from their back end and stuff. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be what a lot of these coaches need to do in the second half is either get more from these guys you currently have or literally go get more,
So for those that are wondering, Tyler did that math offline too. We don't do math well on the podcast.
No,
we covered that.
not.
So
could not have. That was from the broadcast on Monday.
Okay.
That fact was still floating around in my head. So, yeah, I mean, you have a team that's like a top heavy team like that. It can come to burn you in the playoffs. And I can just take that from being a fan of the Bruins.
I was just going to say, Tyler, you read my mind, bud. Just thought that. You only have one line. You don't go a lot of places. Hey,
exactly.
Kind of need four of those.
Well, and here, Anthony, for you to follow it down, I can't call it the second half again. We'll call it the final 40%. For the 87s, they lead the league in goals against with 48. The record for a single season was 73 by the Little Flyers in 18-19.
Wow.
They did it in what will be 2 fewer games. There are only 44 games that year. But that 18-19 team was the one that had won 40 games, lost 3 in regulation, and won in overtime. So you can keep an eye for that record down the stretch of the second half. The Railers guys can keep an eye on Stefan Kulhanek in the second half.
Wins.
He needs 7 wins all time. That's combined regular season and postseason to tie Nathan Miller. So
has he been added to that list, Commish? I know we were getting him onto that.
Yeah, he's on the list right there, right there with 45. So
Steph, you're there, buddy.
Betting man, 8 wins in the second half plus playoffs. I feel pretty good.
Yeah, I would too.
So
like Bertoni has said to all of us, 1A, 1B, but they still have a good chunk of games left in the second half of the season. And then, like you said too, Neil, with that postseason comes into factor. And I think the Railers might be coming out of the Central. Not doing Frozen Finals picks yet. No. teasing, but they have heated back up. That's for sure. They got a lot of coal in their engine. That's for sure.
Hey, speaking of the Central Division, how about HC Rhode Island?
What a week they had in Newington. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they are such a fun team. Like Tyler and I were talking, like we were talking about the different body languages on the two benches. Like when HCRI is down, like they're still standing, they're still screaming, like their locker room is still the loudest at intermission. Like there's such a bond on that team. They take so much pride in being a new team in the league and wanting to make a mark in their first season. And I mentioned this a while back, what David Meyer said to me at the first showcase. He said we are as close now, and that was the first month of the season, as the BJRP team was last year when they won the championship. So, I mean, they are a really good group. We were talking to Josh Hogue at the end of the showcase as well, and he was telling us how much fun he's having and how good the group is. Same thing with Will O'Brien, who scored the game-winning goal. They're just a fun team to be around. Like win or lose, they just have a good energy about them, and you can just see that anytime they play.
Yeah, there's a lot of believability there, I would say. And I mean, I think they're making up some ground after what was a pretty rough month or so stretch for them after getting off to a strong start to the season. So they're starting to pick up some points again. And with the Chiefs tumbling, opens up like that second seed in the Central now. The Apple Corps haven't been able to pick up some wins. Yep. And now all of a sudden HC Rhode Island is. The Chiefs are falling. The Apple Corps can't make up any ground. That second seed is up for grabs, I'd say. And Rhode Island making a good push before the break to try and get it.
We all said over the week, you want to stay out of that playing game. Nothing good comes from playing games.
Yep.
Nothing.
Bad. I'd agree.
No, I mean, playing games.
Oh, Anthony
okay.
likes fun. Depends on what owner, what team, what coach, what broadcaster you're asking.
Which team are we talking to here?
Let's send a poll out to the league there, Anthony, and see if they all agree with that.
I mean, last year's champion played the playing game, so
played in the wild card game. We're talking we're talking the
4-5.
The 4-5 just to get into the
okay. I stand corrected then.
That's all right.
It's okay. We still know what you're wearing on top of your head right now. So, anyways, in the Central, it's kind of crazy to see that the 2 and the 5 seeds are separated by 6 points right now. So that's going to be, in years past, it's been a little frustrating for me, as Anthony loves to call me the master scheduler. I want to get ahead of the playoff schedule if I can, but you can't do that until the seeds are locked up. And looking at these races, I don't think we're going to know a lot until the last possible day. And the final day of the regular season is Sunday, March 5th. We have that buffer day for Monday the 6th, which is for any cancellations and whatnot. Jeff, I haven't said it once this year because it hasn't happened. It hasn't poured snow yet.
No,
that's a common thing for all those that
don't broadcasters jinx us, Neil. Jeez, look outside.
I always refer to it snowing heavily as pouring snow.
Yes, you do.
And Jeff does not really like that for some reason.
Weird. Sounds wrong.
But now you convert it to me. I always say it's pouring rain, and Christina calls it. Like, is it pouring? I'm like,
it's snowing in buckets. Okay. Oh my goodness! Actually, it's so funny. I was talking with Jake Rock about this on the bus ride back home. We were talking about malaphors, where you switch. Or where you switch around metaphors and smush them together into one. So, it's snowing buckets, or we'll burn that bridge when we get there.
Anthony, keep these teacher lessons up. You're gonna be on Team OG in 2 minutes, bud. You're gonna be leaving those young guns.
This was a bus ride conversation.
Anthony, you should
after 3 games. They should have showcase brain, legs, bodies.
I'm just picturing Anthony and Jake Rock having a very intense conversation about this, and everybody else is asleep.
Yeah, it's very intellectual for a post-win bus ride.
They're Matt Damon and Robin Williams from Goodwill Hunting on the bus.
Breaking down equations.
Well, no. Actually, I'll tell you why this conversation came up, because I remember he actually asked me, Is the phrase everything and the kitchen sink or everything in the kitchen sink? And I said, no, it's everything and the kitchen sink, or the alternative, everything but the kitchen sink. I said it's one of those two, not everything in the kitchen sink. And apparently head coach Adam Hooley said we got to throw everything in the kitchen sink.
Ooh.
That's
the second time we're putting holes under the hot iron.
Much to learn. Much to learn.
Even Anthony.
Yeah. And
left Anthony on the bus, and now he's mixing up metaphors.
Yeah, and on next week's podcast, we'll break down if water is wet. All right. So switching over to the EHLP, to put you guys back on the spot, a takeaway, a piece from the EHLP. Anthony, can I steal yours?
And what should that be?
Expansion teams. So I'll pick one of the expansion teams, Anthony. Very impressed and I guess you could say pleased with Adirondack so far. Just we knew what they were coming in with for a facility, but every team that goes up there for a road game leaves that road game, raving with reviews about just the experience of playing in a building that also is the home for an ECHL team. And they had a bunch of games so far this season that have stretched past regulation, as we've noted numerous times in this podcast. They love to be in overtime or be in a shootout. So for me, a big takeaway is Adirondack and how they've kind of just gelled in seamlessly to the EHLP.
It's a good one, Neil.
Very good take, Commissioner.
I mean, I can do a combo. I mean, the PA Huntsman loves Zach Overholtzer. Me and him are frequent texters now. That was a team that I saw in the Worcester Showcase that I coined the PA Huntsman broadcaster's curse. I told them I would never do another game because they started out with an amazing game with Anthony and Chris, and then got turned over to me and Joe for their Final Four, and there were some stinkers in there, and they haven't had any of those since. But I mean, also look at the Rangers too. I mean, they deserve credit for how many years that they just continually they move guys up to the EHL level. They won a championship last year at the Premier level, and then they're back again. And they continue to just keep reloading. I think the Premier level at any junior hockey level is really hard to keep sustained success because of what you're doing. You're there to develop guys and move them up to the next level, which is the EHL teams. The Rangers just keep on doing that. They lose a bunch of guys to the EHL team, and then they just kind of recoiled, what's the word I'm looking for? Renewed, reloaded. There we go.
Use
reloaded.
Use a Malafor.
Use a Malafor. But yeah, I mean, they've reloaded and they look like they're poised for another big long run too.
Who's next?
I'll go next. I will say, and I'll give some love to my Blue Train family. I've been really impressed with how little they have allowed in terms of goals this season.
Yeah,
and
Aiden Healy, baby, you got the feels for heels.
Yes. They deserve so much credit. If we had a Jennings Trophy, it would certainly go to them at this rate. I just look at when you look at that Railers team too, I guess to just couple along with that point is they allow so little, but then they put up so much, 107 goals. They have a differential of plus 44, 20 wins. I mean, that Boston division, there is kind of a drop off there. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Railers and the defending champion Rangers duke things out in the second half of the year. When it comes to EHL Premier matchups, those are often always a treat. And I think as they compete for that first seed in the Boston division, Rangers do have some games in hand at their disposal. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out because it might not be the toughest division in the EHLP by any means, but those two teams right there are arguably the two best.
And for those that are following along at home, the Railers are ranked currently as the fourth team in terms of goals against with 63. So there's three teams above them, but they have at least four games more played than all of those teams. Yeah. So you have to venture to guess when the game count evens itself out, right, it's all going to be pretty equal there.
They are currently number one in goals against per game.
There you go.
But I would say my biggest takeaway is that we don't know anything right now. I think Exeter is going to be huge. because you see there are going to be some sick clashes, like BJR is going up against the Huntsmen. The Railers are going up against the 87s and Adirondack. So I think that's going to be a big telling over where things really lie. So I'm really pumped for Exeter. I think the EHLP is really unpredictable. If you look at it, you're like, all right, there are a couple of like top dog teams. There's obviously BJR, who I think they're the best horse going into this race. Railers are probably my number 2, and then Vermont is maybe my 3. So I think like right now you look at it and you're like, that's it. And then the 87s are really good. But then again, they have the benefit of scheduling in the South Division. So I think that Exeter showcase is going to be huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Who's next?
Who's left? It would be Anthony Trevor.
Yeah. Nathan, you got it.
Okay. Tyler, you talked about the drop off in the Boston division. I mean, with the Mid-Atlantic division, if you think the Boston division is a drop off, then in the Mid-Atlantic, there's a Marianas Trench or something. Yeah. I mean,
you're not wrong, Ant. You're not wrong, man.
I will say though, yeah, putting in the Mid-Atlantic division, the Philadelphia Flyers have picked up some wins as of late. So I think it's not just going to be a 2-team race anymore with the 87s and the Pennsylvania Huntsmen. I think the Little Flyers are gaining some ground and saying like, hey, we deserve to be here too. So I think there's certainly an EHLP team to watch out for in that Mid-Atlantic division.
Trevor,
I love it, Anthony.
wrap us
I
up.
love the barbs.
Okay, I think the Avalanche being in 3rd place in the P is not going to last very long. So they have 122 goals for, and I think their goalies have been playing a lot better as of late. And, I think, in the next few weeks after the break is over, we're going to see them at the top. I think so.
They're an interesting case because my brother was talking to their coach when he was calling the game at the Worcester Ice Center when we were in Newington. And he said that he thinks they're the most talented team in the EHLP. And in terms of top talent, it might be hard to deny. They're pretty cracked. They got Needham, Atkinson, Gazzardi. Like that's ridiculous. Like their numbers, those guys, like all the top 10 in the league, there's like 4 or 5 Avs guys. But he said that he just can't get them to play together as a team and defend as a team. So if they can buy into that, then Trevor's 100% right, because I don't think there's another team with that firepower. I think Lowe's a pretty solid goalie. Gerard's a pretty solid goalie. I don't know if they have a specific number 1, but they could figure that out and get the goals against in order. Yeah, Trevor's right. They are another team that could be a top dog in the P.
Pretty cracked. Okay, that's a new one.
New one.
For you old timers.
Thank you, fellow old guy. I was kind of crack. Whoa, what are we doing there? What is this? A police coming in for a drug class and junior high here? Kids, this is crack. Stay away from it.
Okay, where is that accent?
Now it's a good accent.
Coming from?
I don't know.
The
It's
one
like old Santa Claus or something. I don't know.
the one record to watch in the final stretch of the EHLP season, Ivan Borisov has all-time 117 career points over the course of his career with the 87s, which puts him, quick math, 32 points behind Herbert Zybots for the all-time record. And remember, that's regular season and postseason. So that's a lot of points to get, in this final stretch. But I would hope that he gets the chance to potentially go up to EHL next year. So this is all about chasing that record this year. And it may depend on how far the 87s go, whether or not he can get that record. So that'll be a fun one.
I think it's definitely attainable because this is a team that can put the puck in the net. And Tyler, you brought up how the Railers have a great goal differential. The 87s have an even better goal differential at the EHLP level. I think it's plus 54 right now. So that's 10 goals better than the Railers, 7 goals better than the Boston Junior Rangers. Yeah, like they've done a very good job of putting the puck in the net. Well,
Enter Connor McNeil into this chat saying, "Hey guys, what about us? Huh?"
Yeah, exactly.
Coach Connell, don't forget.
Coach Connell is a gigantic Mets fan, so right now he is just thinking about everything. But
he's buying his Carlos Correa jersey, his Verlander jersey, Senga jersey. Jeez, must be nice to have a baseball team that spends money, Neil?
Seriously,
we don't know too well about that.
That'll be 2 episodes from now. But we had started teasing how old Jeff and I are, so let's jump to fantasy.
It's time for the eCrew Fantasy Challenge.
The eCrew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
Did Team HNIB see how many points you guys made up over the last 2 weeks?
No.
Did not.
Negative.
0.4.
Yeah.
So you're still making up ground. It's just very
Listen,
slow.
bit by bit,
Hey, the deficit's not getting bigger, guys.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. We're
Hannah Montana said it best.
We're chipping away, piece by piece. Don't get cocky.
I know, Neil, we can't do this because remember we've all been there before. Literally both of us have been there before where our heads have gotten a little too big, and then by the end it was like, well, sputtered out.
Yes, there is still a lot of time left, but to recap, we had fantasy picks that took us from December 8th, which was the last time we dropped a podcast, to today, the day that we're recording this, December 21st. Just because of how crazy the schedule was. There were teams that were playing a bunch of games. There were teams that weren't. I mean, Vermont's EHL P team hasn't played a game since December 2nd. So we combined it all together. So for Team OG, Cole Fagan got us 2 goals, 2 assists, a bonus game-winning goal. That was the game winner of the showcase against the Avalanche in overtime for 13 points.
Cool.
What Robbie Rabroker didn't get us, Dominic Domakeyevs did, Jeff.
Machine.
3 goals, 5 assists, 3 power play points, and his own bonus game-winning goal against a top 5 team, also named the Avalanche, for 25 points. Scott Kremen, I have to pause here for a second because Kremen is a defenseman for Team Maryland who's heading off to college right now. He's joining SUNY 10 for the second half, and I think Tyler had the call of that Maryland Express game that went to a shootout, and I think Kremen played all 5 minutes in the overtime because it was the last showcase game of his career. And every time he had a chance to shoot in overtime, he was shooting.
Yeah, they had a power play in overtime, and I don't think maybe in normal circumstances, he would have been out there for a power play. I mean, he's not a noted offensive defenseman by any means. You have JJ Creighton, Aiden Parker now, but he was out there letting shots fly. And how fitting would that have been if he did get the game winner?
He had one slap shot from right between the circles in the high slot. Neil, I think you were with me. We're in the corner on the other side, and we had a perfect angle of the shooting lane, and he just missed the crossbar. You could hear just slam off the glass, and we were just like, oh, that was probably the best chance.
Yeah, he is a big man. So good luck. Well, I will pause. I will say we had a good report that came back on Jules Jardine, who took that kind of crazy collision that went to the boards against Express. X-rays came back negative. He's obviously has a concussion and still feeling some neck pain, but it wasn't a very funny situation at the time. But as I got on the ice to talk to the EMT a little bit, Kremen stood next to me. I get it. I'm not very tall and I wasn't on skates, but he stood next to me and I'm like, how big is this guy?
Big kid.
So he got us a goal, 2 assists, 2 shorthanded points for 10 points. Tommy Madden got us a goal for 3 points. And then Kyle Span over that stretch got us 2 wins, including a shutout for 21.8. So overall, we had 72.8, which was not as good as the 73.2 that Team HNIB put up. And I will say you had some more balance.
Team effort.
Yeah, they had some more balance compared to us. A goal and an assist for Damon Warren, 2 goals and an assist. Unfortunately, shootout winners do not count for Carson Whitman. 2 assists for Trent King, 5 assists for Jack Costabile, 3 assists for Cody Plaza. And Yes, your horse this season is by far Tristan Fadadad.
Yeah,
He
maybe
got
just
you-
go with him only. down
Like,
the
like
stretch.
literally every week. He got you 4
Natty
more
Daddy.
wins.
Wow.
I
Four
think
So-
he's what now,
wins.
14-4 on the year or something like that. He's only got like I think 3 or 4 losses all season long. So
He's
Wow.
a
And you guys
confident-
have like 8 of his wins in fantasy.
yeah, no, he's
8
helped
of his
us out.
14.
He's helped us out a ton.
I mean,
ton.
great goaltender, even better person. I got to talk to him
Great
at
kid.
Newington because I know him when he played against the 87s numerous times with Pro Tech,
Yeah.
and it's always fun talking to him.
he is responsible so far, looking at the overall point
Oh, it's doing
totals.
quick math.
Yeah, well, no, not yet. I'm just
Oh,
saying
oh.
we've seen plenty of bonus. Jeff and I for Team OG, we have 6 bonus game-winning goals. Oh my god! Did you hear the dog erupt when I said that?
Nobody loves an OT winner more than Nash.
I guess so, right? We
There's
only
16
have
game-winning goals. Is that?
yes,
correct?
but look at their bonus points, Jeff. Like for our 6 bonus game-winning goals, they have 2. We only have 1 bonus game 1. They have 4 wins from goalies against top 5 teams, plus a bonus
Okay.
shutout against top
We don't
5
have any
teams.
yet.
So the overall point totals. Do you have the calculator, Jeff? This is all.
Yes. Yep, I got you, buddy. Let's do
It's-
some math.
It's 573.2
That's 3.2. Yep.
minus 416.2.
416.2 gives us a lead of calculator
157.
157.
It is a nice whole number. I do enjoy that.
We're still up by like a Connor McDavid full season.
Yeah, but the next project for us is if Team HNIB gains 0.4 points every week the rest of the way, how many years would it take them to catch us? So we'll figure that math out offline because that could be a while.
And the EHL will still be standing by then as the best 3-letter league. So
Me and Neil
Watch
look as
out.
old as we are in that old man's graphic. Still
Me-
ticking around.
Me, Jake, and Tyler will probably have a couple of Foster Hewitt awards by then. I think Trevor will have a couple of Emmys for some of
Yeah.
his sick camera
Lord
work.
willing.
Right.
But fantasy has been fun this year. I know that there's that deficit, but Jeff, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves because that 157 can turn around very quickly.
Yeah.
We're not going to get ahead of ourselves. So we don't have any picks right now. We'll reset the picks in 2 episodes when we return to action on January 5th. But for now, let's jump into what to watch for, which is all a tease for next week's episode.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action throughout the 2022-2023 season.
So next week's episode will begin first with an interview from Jake of Austin Master. I mentioned that 18-19 Little Flyers team earlier. Austin Master was a part of that Little Flyers team. And he's actually now the captain at Stevenson University, and he has been selected to the World University Games, which is for the first time a team being put together of all NCAA players. They used to be club hockey players. And actually, little history here, prior to the All-Star College Series where we play NCAA teams, we actually played the World University team when it was made up of all of the top club hockey players in the country. That was back in the, I want to say 16-17 season. We lost game 1 2-1. We lost game 2 by a much bigger margin because, as you can imagine, some of those club hockey players, one of them, I believe, was 27 years old. So that was a lot older than the guys that we were marching out there. But awesome to see
7
Austin
years.
Master get selected to that. Another
good for him.
player that was selected but not to play for Team USA was Tom Skold, who's now at Westfield
remember him.
State. Yep, he's playing for Sweden in that. So next week's episode will begin with that interview, Jake and Austin, and then the rest of it is all about picking our picks, our finals picks. So, we always do this halfway through the year, I would say, to create some bulletin board material, but then get us ready for when we actually fill out the brackets at the beginning of March.
My next favorite time.
Yeah. So just for those that are wondering how the playoffs work at home, if you want to read all this, you can go to easternhockeyleague.org and click Frozen Finals, top of the page. But for the EHL, we obviously have 3 divisions of 5. So that's that play-in game that we were referencing earlier with Anthony. 4 and 5 play a play-in game in all 3 divisions to get down to 4 teams in each one. Then 1 plays 4 and 2 plays 3. Winners face off, and 1 winner from each division will be going to Providence. When we get to Providence for the EHL and we have those final 4 teams, we put their 4 regular season records against each other, and that's how you rank them 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 will play 4, 2 will play 3 in a best of 3, and the 2 winners will face off in the championship game on Sunday. So
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's my hope is this: we have at least 1 game 3 in Providence, because
we have to.
If we don't, the ice is still there, and whoever won that series can practice, but maybe we can use that ice. Just saying. So
you show pod hockey, staff skated Schneider.
So if you guys want to get ready for next week for the EHL, you can look at those 4 divisions and have fun picking 1 team per. For the EHLP, so everyone can follow along, it's a little bit different in that, yes, we will have 3 play-in games, 5 versus 4, and then play our way down the same way until there's 3 division champions. But we're bringing a 4th team in the EHLP to Providence again via the same at-large that we did this past year. So
the merrier.
When you have your 3 division finals in the New England division, the Boston division, and the Mid-Atlantic division, you're going to have 3 division losers and technically 3 division winners, right? So when you take the 3 losers, whoever has the best record of that also goes. So the EHLP regular season champion, if they make it to their division finals, is going no matter what, right? Because if they win their series, they're in. If they lose their series, they still have the most points, and they're in that same exact way, the at-large. So I guess if you look at those standings fast, this is crazy. So if you assumed 1 and 2 face each other in every division, right? Mm-hmm. Which would put the Lumberjacks versus, I guess you would say, the Wolves right now, the Railers versus the Rangers, and the 87s versus the Huntsmen. Then say you assume that the 1 seed currently wins each division. Look at how many teams are next to each other in those standings. You have 3 teams with 33 points. The Rangers have 35 points. The Huntsmen have 34 points. So
it's real tight.
And again, remember, the EHLP regular season champion is going no matter what. So if they make it to that series, so if the EHLP regular season champions in those division finals, everybody else in the league is pulling so hard for them to win that series.
Yep.
So this one could be even harder to make picks for next week, but we're going to do that the same exact way.
Yippee. Can't wait. See you then.
Jeff's going
to... I'm going to skip. I'm going to
skip an episode.
I'm out. No, I'm going to take it like a man.
It's scary to me. Yeah.
See, told you, Jake. You'll be in the same territory I've been for years.
It's a lot of pressure.
We're men of the people. We don't like to get on dartboards and
stuff.
Got
to be a man of conviction. That's
exactly. All. I'm just a boater. I just paddle. I just keep going with everything. I go with the flow.
Well.
That's the thing. Once you make these picks, they're set, and we can't change them. So
no takes.
That's it. You will have the chance to change them
when we do the bracket.
When we do the bracket, right? So ideally, we stick with what we felt in December, in March, but we know that a lot of things can change as well. But no matter what we do,
I guess the only nice thing is we only have 1 showcase after we make these picks left. We don't. It's not like we have, all these different showcase events. We have all the college coaches, all the EHL people. They're like, hey, I heard that episode a few weeks ago. And you're like, we're gonna get swept. All right, sounds good. See you then.
So it's like what Tyler said, no take backsies, or as I like to say, once you make those picks, that train has sailed.
Yep.
That train.
The boat has left the
Train is
station.
sailed.
all these
They went off the
Malifaux,
tracks.
all these Malifaux. I can't keep up.
There'll be a test next week, everybody.
That's the word of the podcast, Malifaux.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Malafor. That's the name of the episode.
I think we're gonna
Malafor.
add Jake Rockin next week as well. So,
We
but
don't
that
even have
was-
screen space.
No, I mean, this is like like my coach's Zoom calls, Jeff.
It's the
where-
Brady's bunch. It's the Brady bunch.
Oh my god,
Story.
I like that one actually a lot.
That's a good one. That's
Yeah.
a good one.
But that will do it for this week's episode. Again, awesome to have the whole crew on. We've never had a podcast this big before, and I hope everyone enjoys their Christmas. And we'll talk to you next week with our early picks for the finals.
Early.
Yeah, happy holidays, E-Show fans.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.